There's just a certain magic. It has that mixture of church and hi-fi. Like you can't argue with the quality game changer here.
Been a bit of a journey.
So welcome to the Syndicate X library. Today I want to go over our audio system. Now, many of you already have asked when we're doing record reviews what we're using, and so we're gonna go through in detail what the equipment is. And I'm also at the end of the video going to explain to you some mistakes that I've made and some things that I've learned that maybe can save you some time and frustration. So I have Ian here from Audio Element.
Hello, everybody.
He has been crucial in the design of this and kind of helping me and guiding me. The vision that I came with was that I wanted to create an experience here in the library that when we have events or we have parties or get-togethers, the guests are going to experience music in a way that they never have before. There's a lot of great equipment out there, but maybe the most important thing is how the equipment works together.
Yeah, actually, I think the perfect word is to curate. It's curation, and that's what we do at Audio Element.
And we're gonna go through the system kind of piece by piece. And then also we have a surround sound system in here. So we have two systems basically, which was part of my vision that I want to be able to play movies in here. And also when I have events, I want to be able to play music or sounds that affects the whole room, not just the listening area. So the first part is the speakers are the Klipsch Jubilees. Those seem to kind of be the best so far for this room.
Yeah, I think for what you're trying to do in here and play good music to a lot of people and not have it quite centralized to one specific spot, you want it to sound good everywhere, Jubilees are perfect.
It has that mixture of church and hi-fi.
Each Jubilee is powered by one McIntosh MC275, which is a classic amplifier that McIntosh has made for, I think, 50 or 60 years at this point. This is the fifth iteration of it, so it's the most modern rendition. It's really the perfect amplifier for the Jubilees. Just brings out some good tonalities, some richness.
And of all the stuff that we've tried over the years, the thing that I love about the McIntosh is that it gets out of the way. Like a lot of the stuff that I've tried puts a kind of a filter or
colors it in its own way.
I just love how it does a great job and it gets out of the way. It's not trying to put any sort of color on it. Next, we have the
so the McIntosh power amps are taking input control from the preamp, which is the C2700. Also made by McIntosh. So it's got 8 input tubes in it. They all light up. Very cool preamp, perfect combination with the MC275s.
And then we really just have that thing set to two settings.
Oh, it's the two inputs, the DAC and the phono. That's all we're using.
That's it.
And we've got it basically hooked up to the home theater control as well. Get the best of both worlds.
I'm a huge fan of direct drive.
For many reasons, direct drive is preferable. To a lot of people, it's speed control number one. It can't be topped by a lot of belt-driven turntables. Easy maintenance most of the time, especially at the level that you're at now with the Grand Prix Audio Parabolica. So Alvin Lloyd, who is the owner and CEO of Grand Prix Audio, he got his start actually in the indie circuit, and he eventually became VP of Swift Engineering, which was huge on the indie circuit at the time, and kind of said, how can I apply this to audio? What can I do? I think the very first thing he did was make the rack that we're also using over here in the system as well. That's the Grand Prix Monaco. And he just took a lot about what he knew with resonance control and where energy goes kind of throughout the turntable, the preamp, the phono stage, everything that's sitting on that rack. It's still going to create all this energy, and you got to find a way to make it not so much a part of the equation. And so that's what he's doing with isolation and resonance control in the rack. Eventually he came out with the turntable. He's doing the same kind of thing. Very cool.
There's just a certain magic with the Grand Prix that is beyond words.
At that level, certainly, yeah.
What kind of cartridge are we running on that?
So we're using the Hana Umami Red, which is a very special cartridge.
It punches up?
Yeah, that's kind of the way that we like to describe it. It's not inexpensive. It costs $4,000, but it sounds closer to an $8,000 or $10,000 cartridge.
The next thing is the phono preamp. So I'm gonna guess I tried 20 different phono preamps.
Yeah, that's the one you mentioned earlier. It's been a bit of a journey. And where we ultimately ended up was the VTL TP 6.5 Series 2.
So they're part of the Manley company, right?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a separation actually. So VTL was started by David Manley and his son Luke Manley. And eventually they split up. I think David wanted to make more pro audio. And Luke said, I really like making what we're making. And David started Manley Labs, Luke kept VTL, and that's still how it is to this day.
These VTLs look like used VCRs that have been retrofitted. Like, you can't argue with the quality and what they do.
Not at all. I think they're happy with the design. They see no reason to make a change, and it's industrial. That's how it's always looked. That's part of their familiarity, part of the brand.
But it sounds incredible. What is it about it that makes it so much better than everything else?
Unbelievably good circuitry and R&D that goes into the design of all these. They're built to order. It's a specialty company, and they treat each piece with a lot of care. VTL is constantly making updates, even to the current models.
Now, going to the DAC.
Yeah, so we've got the Lina DAC streamer and the Lina master clock.
So when you brought that over the first time, you hooked it up, and we listened to a couple songs. And then you did the wait, but there's more.
But there's more.
And you go to your box and you pull out a time clock, and then it got even better.
Yeah, the time clock is really massive. It affects timing in the digital domain, and basically, there is a clock inside the DAC itself, but when you unburden itself from that and you get its own power supply and much better circuitry, you give it that opportunity to correct the timing a little bit better. And what that does essentially is it lowers the noise floor, lets a lot more detail come through that was just not present before.
Ian did the same thing to us today because he brought cables.
So those are the transparent reference BNC cables, and essentially it's the link between the DAC and the clock. And even changing those cables out makes a huge difference.
So that's the DAC, which I am, that thing is a workhorse for us and does a great job. The one thing about that DAC that has always been an issue, and same thing for me at home because I also have it at home, but the app for it locks up all the time. It doesn't connect. It's kind of goofy. So you suggested Rune.
Yeah. So essentially a lot of companies that make DAC streamers, they usually have their own app, which you would use to link up whatever sort of streaming accounts you might have and play it all through that and control the system basically using that app. And most of them do a pretty good job, but we do always recommend using Rune instead, just because it's software completely dedicated to that exact purpose.
And it's been a game changer here because it's functional. And I don't know if I'm crazy, but I do notice that it sounds a little bit different.
It does decode the file differently than other apps might. There is a difference.
Something.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about the cables.
The cabling is all done by a company called Transparent Audio, which is the same cabling that I brought today for the clock cables that we're using. We've got super level cable all throughout the entire system. That's speaker cable, XLR interconnects, RCA interconnects.
Can we just kind of talk about that for a second? Because in the stratosphere, a lot of people will talk about how cables don't matter, and then some people say they do matter. But just from my experience, I'd been through 3 different cables because the ones I had that were pretty expensive, the bottom end was better, but the top end disappeared.
Yep.
Then the other ones that I had that were kind of middle of the road were okay, but they were missing something. And then everything got better when I put those in, which you knew would happen. But why is there a debate about the cables when it's so dramatic?
Well, because if you get to the physics of it, lots of times you can run tests and get the exact same result, right? And I don't know why that is on paper, that you would think there's no difference whatsoever, but when you hear it, it's night and day, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't hear it, you don't hear it, right?
Yeah.
Then I say don't spend the money. But if you do hear it, say that's something that I want in my system, that puts us on a different path.
Yeah,
But
to me the cables have been dramatic.
Yeah.
Because those cables are are they taking into consideration what the equipment is?
Yeah, so at a certain level with transparent, what they'll actually do is they'll calibrate it. They'll basically tune the cabling and the filters inside the cables to match the equipment that you're using.
Let's talk about the surround sound.
So we've got the Dali Opticon on-wall surrounds rigged up around this entire room.
And those are interesting speakers, the design.
Danish made.
You can't see them in here. You don't know that they're here.
Yeah, they're well hidden, which is really nice.
But they definitely show up.
Yeah, they produce, and that's powered by the McIntosh MHT300 running the surround.
And then that becomes daddy, basically. It takes over.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it kicks on the center. So we have a center speaker too.
Yes, yeah, we've also got the Dali Opticon center channel.
What I didn't understand about surround sound is that most of the time the voices, the speaking is in the center.
Usually.
So the Jubilees aren't getting enough of that. So if you don't have the center, you can't really hear the dialogue.
Yeah, as far as vocals are concerned, and you're gonna be doing home theater, having a center is pretty crucial.
So let me, and you had no part in my mistakes, by the way. The first mistake that I made, and the reason why I tried 20 different phono preamps, was I was in love with the techniques. I don't know, being a kid, I had techniques when I was pretending to be a DJ. I got the Techniques SP1000 RES reference turntable. Yeah. The thing is a boat anchor. I mean, there was a time there where I was trying a different phono. I tried different amps, everything. Like
everything.
In the end, it was the turntable. Because as soon as the Grand Prix came in, it was like nothing could make it sound bad. And then the other one was speakers. So in here, I love the Jubilees as speakers, but I did not like the look because the way that the room is set up with the bookshelves and the screen, it's like square on square on square.
Yeah, it's very angular.
And I wanted speakers that gave it, you know, a different look. So we tried different speakers, and one speaker that I ended up buying just kind of on a hope and a prayer was the Avant-Gardes. Yeah, same thing. Like there was nothing we could do to make those things sound good. I just learned that sometimes you're in love with a piece of gear and you're trying to make that piece of gear work, and it's just not
working.
It's not the piece of gear
yeah.
to have, I guess. So that is the system. So when we're doing album reviews, or if you're ever here for an event or a workshop, you will experience the system. But well, I appreciate everything that you've done
Chris.
for me and your patience. It's well curated. You've done a great job.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, together.
Real proud of this system. Loved working on it for you.
Cool. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next time.